Hello, my name is Matt. Welcome to Unbearable 73. So now it's my season 3 retrospective on the Orville for season 3. So I'll start with a summary of any production issues and positive, negatives, and whatnot. You've heard me, but I'm not going to go crazy on it because you've heard me talk about for the entirety of the season, the good stuff and the bad stuff. Overall, production levels this season have been top notch, with the only notable flaws being some writing induced stupidity and a tendency by the directors to do too many short, rapid cuts, especially as you get to the later parts of the episode. Another issue with the writing is it seems like there's 3 or 4 episodes where there's more than one episode in once. Okay, in one. On a positive sign, this team that does the CGI for the space and ship scenes or planetary flying scenes have done master work. That's what's playing in the background. I just sampled about 15 or 20 of the scenes, and I'm having them autoplay so you can just see what I'm talking about. And the writers who wrote those scenes worked with them, and for the most part, the depiction of the ships in flight and combat and whatnot have been very well done. No wasted stuff where they're just showing off for the sake of showing off the special effects. All the motions in flight were particularly needed for the plot, except for 1 or 2 points I mentioned during the season. I've always had a criticism for the Orville, though, that they established the combat ranges for the show as being too close, but the overwhelmingly awesome CGI for space distracts me from that. Okay, so let's move on to talking about the season's plot or plots. The Orville didn't really have a pure meta plot for the season, even if they sort of faked to. I think that could have been more of a problem had not most of the episodes been reasonably well done. The 2 fake meta plots were the war with the Chaon and relationship with the Mochlins. If I did not enjoy the episodes as much as I did, for the most part, which is not to say that I thought every single episode was a 10 out of 10, but anyway, if I didn't enjoy the episodes as much as I did, I would have been disappointed with the progress of the seasons. I think that, and you're going to hear me harp on this one, I think that they resolved both the Mochlin problem and the Chaon problem way too fast. And I guess it's understandable, however, if Seth wanted to make sure he could wrap up the Orville if this is the final season. Now, the Mochlin problem, okay? Basically, forcing gender reassignment surgery on infants combined with discrimination against females, balanced against the Union's need for the Mochlin military industrial complex because of the Chaon problem. Now, this is one of the better setups of a scenario for a sort of sci-fi show, innovative Star Trek way to discuss ethical issues and moral issues and present them to the audience and so forth, okay? Unfortunately, I think McFarlane dropped the ball here. This should have properly been developed into a multi-season problem with a lot of nuances in its solution. All the individual episodes with this problem before were at the very least good, but unfortunately, the overall progress of the story they told was underwhelming because it needed depth and nuance. But it got resolved with basically several chainsaw cuts to the trunk, so to speak. The Chaon problem suffered a similar issue. This species is literally the most powerful military power and most dangerous threat to existence, short of those Lovecraftian aliens in that forbidden sector on the other side of Krill space, in terms of enemies, so to speak. And then those weird, future people, so to speak, from the time-accelerated universe, who are also Lovecraftian in a sense. Now, the Chaon also have an incredible backstory. They contain the 3 T's: tragedy, triumph, and terror. The tragedy was the origin as sapient slaves whose torture became an entertainment feature. The triumph was overcoming the species of sociopaths who created them. And the terror was that it created a horror greater even than that which led to their origin. And McFarlane basically ended after less than 2 seasons. Okay? It seems intellectually dissatisfying. It reminds me of the mistake made with the Voyager, with the Borg and Voyager. Star Trek had built up a fearsome enemy. The Borg were essentially a force of nature that the Federation of other powers in Alpha Quadrant had to use everything they had just to deal with an incursion, just to survive. And then, in less than even the whole 7th run of Voyager, the Borg were reduced to an afterthought enemy. When you invent a great sci-fi villain in a long-form TV show or a series of movies, or shows that go through multiple, multiple shows in a continuity, those villains need to have staying power before they're finally dealt with. You can't just do what they did to the Chaon here, and what they did to the Borg and Voyager, and expect people to be satisfied with that. So there's my plot discussions. I mean, with the 2 major plots, and so forth. You've heard my talk. I'm not going to go over every individual episode because you've heard that already. Character development. So, in terms of the main cast, there's no argument Mercer was written the best of any character. He had strong moments in every episode, constantly acting as a decisive captain in battle or framing the moral, ethical, and philosophical conundrums that the crew was confronted with. The only other character who had similar moments was Finn, in terms of occasionally bringing up ethical concerns and whatnot. Isaac, Bortus, and Burke had the next largest development, though for different reasons. With Isaac, he didn't change so much as he moved forward and explored his character arc, but he largely remained Isaac. With Bortus, he imposed his character on his journey. He didn't change so much, but the world Bortus had to live in, which was originally one that was less satisfying to him because of beliefs and thoughts he had, became more satisfying to him through the progress of the Topa plot. And Burke, well, we all know what happened there. Given that she went out like a boss, I'm okay with our progress. She went from being a divisive member of the crew who constantly sought to sabotage the crew's relationship with Isaac, and who fans probably disliked in large part because of that, because they wanted everyone to get along, to arguably a place of burgeoning friendship with Isaac, and who sacrificed herself to essentially save the Chaon from destruction, from their own dark path the creator had set them on. As to the rest, they all had their big moments, but for the most part, other than a weird failed attempt at a romance between Kiali and Lamar, they're mostly status quo. And I mean, there wasn't anything, And in terms of supporting characters, obviously Topa and Clyden had the most development. I won't keep harping on the rapid pacing, but I was satisfied how their individual characters wound up. It's just the overall storyline that got me annoyed. I also have to say Admiral Halsey is probably the most memorable supporting character for the season. He didn't have a lot of cool development per se, but he had a bunch of cool moments. And last to be mentioned, but far from least, is Lieutenant Yaphet. Not so much for character development because he was played by the now departed Norm Macdonald. This is the final character in a great career by a classy gentleman. Yaphet, like Norm Macdonald, will be missed. Finally, we'll move on to the setting here. I want to talk about the setting and where do they go from here. Firstly, I think Seth produced this season with the idea that it might be the last. I think that's what the title explicitly means, that the future is unknown. And this could have been the final episode, or it could be more. As I said in the episode 10 review, this was an epilogue-style episode. So, with the Chaon now in Union, the Union's in a phenomenal position of strength. There's almost nothing the Moclan Crow Alliance should be able to do to aggressively against them. Regarding the Moclans, their story arc for this storyline was bad. I mean, like really, really, really fracking bad. I can probably do a whole essay going over more than 4 or 5 better ways the Moclan arc could have been plotted. Maybe not have the Moclans portrayed as total political morons. Maybe have the Union propose a better solution, like say giving the Moclans some sort of benefit, and they just allow those like 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 100,000 females who are born to just leave the planet. I mean, it was just very badly designed, that arc. So where does it leave us with threats, enemies, and so on? Well, there's that unexplored region beyond the Krill space. The Krill should be in a weakened political position after the short victorious war. Bonus points for anyone out there who got the reference. And anything else would have to be something else entirely new. Of course, there's no reason to do anything big like the Chaon threat, especially if Seth is only really planning on 1 or 2 more seasons. So we can get largely by with planetary exploration episodes for the most part, maybe a couple of big battles here and there. Lastly, I'm going to briefly address the political controversies, okay? It's very important to note, the Orville is fiction. You should not be looking in fiction to say, well, if something works in reality, it should work in fiction. The Orville is set in a post-scarcity society. By definition, everything we call communism or capitalism or free market economics or even mercantilism or whatever, they're all based on scarcity, on the distribution of finite resources. So whatever happens post-scarcity, while we have ideas of what could and won't work, the Orville is post-scarcity. They have their version of the Star Trek replicator. So basically, they have infinite energy, a device that can basically clone anything, food, whatever you want. In the epilogue episode, they go over that device quite a bit, and only mass manufacturing is a big issue, obviously, because the size of the stuff, but not the material components. So the Union is basically a post-scarcity society, not a communist society, because communism requires scarcity. Okay, there's no centralized government that's going to tell you can't eat if you don't do work, because you can just go. They've already said go up to a replicator and get some food. I mean, that's freely established resource. Space travel is also relatively inexpensive by everything we can see, with the amount of ships that they have. So If you don't want to live on Earth and you want to go live on your own on a colony planet, you probably could in the Orville. So I'm not defending the setting now. I'm saying people need to realize when you're looking at this, Seth is aware that he is in a post-scarcity setting when he writes these episodes. Okay, he's actually been pretty nuanced about presenting both sides of issues in some cases. Anyway, so move on. Final thoughts. I still think the second season is the best one. This season had a couple of really good episodes and phenomenal. Like, this is the best space CGI I have seen probably ever. I mean, realistically, probably ever. Okay, there might be some stuff in the Avengers movies, or what was that movie with? I can't remember. It was one science fiction movie a couple of years ago. It was a really cool space scene, but it was a bad movie. Anyway, on the other hand, there was some directorial issues related to pacing and, of course, the larger writing issues, where I think Seth and his writing team wrote the Orville into a corner. So where they go from here, we'll see. I hope we get more of the Orville. I'd like to get 2 more seasons, and then maybe have Mercer, either do. I personally think if there's more, Mercer's going to get a very Sheridan-like ending. If you got my drift, that would make sense. That or him and his daughter disappearing somewhere. But and then maybe see a spin-off of the Orville in the same universe, so to speak, a couple years later. Maybe that might be an opportunity for Grayson to have a command, for example. Anyway, I give the season a 7.5 out of 10. I'm not going to belabor this. I don't want to do, like I said, I could do long videos. If someone out there wants to get together and talk over the scarcity issues and the politics and all that, we could do that. Or if they want to talk about, the stupidity of the Malcolm plot, we could do that. But this is just my overall final thoughts on season 3. I hope you enjoyed my reviews, and we'll keep following me in the future. Comment down below if you have any questions for me about this video. Please share your thoughts. Share this video if you enjoyed it. Sharing helps me grow the channel, obviously. Like if you like, dislike if you dislike. Subscribe if you want to hear more from me. My name is Matt. This has been Unbearable 73. Have a nice day, and I am out of here.